Good morning, everyone. It is retired Major Brenda Sanchez coming to you live from Colorado Springs, Colorado. And for those of you who don't know me, I was in the Air Force for 27 years. I retired here out of Peterson Air Force Base out of NORAD Northcom. And so I'd like to get to know you also. So if you'd please, down below, put where you're watching from and what branch of the service maybe you served in or how you're connected to the military. I would love to learn that. So I have the honor and the privilege of being here today with Courtney and her husband, Bill, who own Heritage Arsenal, which I'm going to pan just a little bit. You're going to be able to see, check this stuff out. Woo! All the different military artifacts. Let's see. There we go. Awesome. And I met Courtney out networking out at eWomen Network and learned about what they were doing, and I just thought it was really cool and got to meet her husband. And so I'm going to turn it over to them. I'm going to ask them a few questions, and we're going to learn all about Heritage Arsenal here in Colorado Springs. So I guess I'll ask you, Courtney, since I know you better than Bill. I've met Bill a few times. So tell me a little bit about you. I know you're the spouse, and Bill was the one that served. How did Heritage Arsenal all come about? And, let's see, you retired how long ago, Bill?
2 years.
2 years ago. So tell me a little bit about that transition from military, because I've done the same thing, and it can be really scary and really exciting at the same time. So why don't you share your story, both of you?
Well, at Heritage Arsenal, we started talking about it, thinking about it a few years prior to Bill's retirement. And I think that was kind of an important point, was eventually everybody leaves the service, no matter how many years. And in Bill's case, it was 28. And I was alongside of him for 20 of those 28 years.
Wow. And
we just wondered what our life would look like after the Army. And so we started just dreaming. And I think for Bill, this was a long-held dream. Maybe it has manifested a little bit differently than what he thought, but he had started collecting when, at the age of 10 years old, he received his first helmet from a retired soldier. Well, I guess not retired, but he had served in World War II and brought back a German helmet, and he had given it to Bill. And so we've always been about military history, and Bill was always putting together displays at all the different units we were served at, and we were always connecting with the veterans and their spouses, and kind of trying to connect those with the family members that we served throughout our time in the Army.
Cool. And so as a spouse,
yes,
it's kind of hard as a spouse to be always traveling and moving and having to up your career and change all the time. So what's your background prior to this, Courtney?
I mean, in the beginning, I had worked in NASCAR. I was
NASCAR?
Yeah, I was.
Oh wow!
I was the director of media relations for a race team, and so I was traveling. So I was kind of used to the traveling, but on my own. And then, it didn't really jive well with the Army. So you kind of had to make a decision, and so we wound up, our first duty assignment together was in Alaska, of all places.
Oh, wow.
And so we moved up there, and then actually started a family pretty soon after we had gotten married. And so I had done, worked in the technology sector within marketing for a while. But then a lot of times, as we progressed throughout his Army career, it was mostly about serving the families that were around us and kind of pouring our energies into our own family and those that were in the units where he was serving.
So, marketing background, so that would be why you're the president of Heritage Arsenal and kind of the spokesperson out in the community for the most part. You're the one that I always see. So let's learn a little bit about Bill and his military career and what brought you here and the transition, because I know it was difficult for me, and you and I have talked. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'm from northern Minnesota. I enlisted in 1989, coming right out of high school. But I think what motivated me to join the service, and the Army in particular, were the kind of veterans that I had exposure to back home. They were really hardy, resilient, band back there, you know, woodsmen, lumberjacks, hardy people. I guess it takes that to survive the weather up there, especially this year. But a lot of them had been paratroops, had been 10th Mountain Division guys, Darby Rangers, etc. So I guess I got it in my mind that when you join the Army, you don't join the Army to make hash browns. So so I decided to enlist in and ended up serving in a Ranger battalion right off the bat.
Cool.
And that was sort of the flavor of my whole career all the way through. But as I was going from unit to unit, I was learning more and more about that unit's legacy, that unit's history. Some of those veterans would come to the organization as VIPs or as guests of ours. And I always was either leading a staff ride somewhere in the world, showing the current serving members what the previous generations that had served in those ranks had participated in, where they had been in the world, the remarkable things they'd done. And so, you know, as we faced retirement, I really had what I thought was an opportunity. It wasn't so much anxiety. Of course, there's always that.
Yeah.
There's uncertainty, there's all those things. But that was something that actually we had lived with most of our career. So it was really about swimming upstream to the core of your motivation. What lights your pilot light? You know, what gets you up in the morning? What seems like activity but isn't really work?
Yeah.
And so Courtney wouldn't let me, you know, build a man cave at home, so I built one, which is behind us here. So these are all uniforms named, attributed to people that I met over the course of years, all the way, you know, as Courtney mentioned, since the age of 10 all the way to the present day. And they provided context to me when I wore the uniform, and now as a private citizen, they provide context to me and to all of us, really, because it's part of our national story. You know, whether you served or not, our military history, our military legacy, our legacy of service is part of the national fabric. And you know, to be able to honor them every day, to make the anonymity of military service something, you know, we can mitigate that by telling their stories, by honoring their service, by remembering and recognizing what they did for us and the legacy that we've inherited from them. So that's essentially what Heritage Arsenal is. We have a lot of capabilities. We work with museums around the world. Colin Powell's one of our clients. We have museums all the way from Northern Ireland all the way to Ohio, to Florida, to here in Colorado. So we love it. We love filling this space. There was really very few people operating in this space. There are 17,000 museums in the United States, and 5,000 of them are military museums.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
People consider this, you know, when they first hear about it, as a very niche-y or a very small space. I'm here to tell you there's a lot going on. And really, it's not just museums that serve this sector. So you've got living historians who go out every day as reenactors, or mostly on the weekends, I should say, and they create impressions, authentic impressions, so that people can touch, feel, taste, smell what it must have been like a generation 2, 3 ago. So we do serve that segment, you know, and then we have private collectors who, you know, I was one for years, right, in my spare time, but they fill a void. Each one of them really complement each other, and there was really no company out there that was a one-stop shop that did appraisals, photography, certification, consultation, exhibit creation, specialized artifact storage, you know, consignment. And now we're getting into the nonprofit sector, where military-themed nonprofits can actually create a recurring revenue stream through a partnership with Heritage Arsenal. And so we're very, very excited about being able to do this, mostly because every day we come to work, we deal with veterans and the history, our military history, which has been at the core of our existence. We constantly found ourselves in military museums or on battlefields, especially when we served in Europe for about 5 years. So I guess I would encourage other veterans out there who might be transitioning with your family, maybe curious about what Chapter 2 looks like. I would just explore who you are, and really, you've got an opportunity. This isn't cause for concern. This isn't, you've got a lot of transferable skills.
Yeah.
I know you and I spoke just earlier about transferable skills, time management, risk mitigation, contingency planning. Being a small business, that's what it's all about, right? And I'll tell you that any day somebody isn't shooting at you is an easier day than the aforementioned. So don't worry about that.
So what were your biggest challenges going from military life to being a business owner?
Well, I would say, the military course creates a ton of structure for you. They also tell you where you stand every minute you're in it.
And
right?
what to wear.
What to wear, how to wear it, where to be. So I wouldn't say the word intrusive because that's a negative connotation, but I mean, you serve that structure, and that structure is fairly rigid when you start considering your civilian counterparts. You're not any different. You're the same person out here. Your environment is different. And so if you recognize that about yourself, that you need a routine, you need discipline, you need affirmation, you need a structure, you need something on the horizon to work towards and for, because it provides you a sense of purpose. I would encourage you in civilian life to just, even if it's sort of artificial in nature, right? Like I want to run a 7-minute mile, or I want to do, I want to make this money this quarter. I want to get 3 new contracts, or I want to climb a 14er on the weekends, or, whatever it is, right? The military, you almost blundered into affirmation all the time, right? Whether it was an evaluation, whether it was a fitness test, or some sort of challenge that had a tangible outcome, right? There isn't that really readily available necessarily in civilian life. And so my advice would be to create the life you want, that autonomy that you have over your life, where you realize you wake up in the morning and you got your cup of coffee and you realize no one has a hold on your day, that you are basically orchestrating and engineering your entire day, can be a little unnerving to people who have gone decades without that sort of epiphany, right? That realization. So I don't know if that's helpful or not, but that's the way we approached it. And to be able to do something with her where, a rising tide lifts all boats, where we share success, where we get into the conference room and we throw something up on the whiteboard. I mean, very similar to what I did for years in the military. It's really interesting to do that with your wife. There was oftentimes I withheld details about my day when I came home because I just really didn't want to think about it, and I really didn't think she was interested. But when you're in business with your spouse, you're on the clock every minute, whether that's midnight or whether that's 6 a.m. And so all of that can be great. That can be a great experience. But it's a wholly different experience than probably the one that most uniformed service members experience.
Yeah, it's cool being in business with your husband. As most of you know that are viewing, my husband and I are in business together. He does still have a traditional job, so he helps me nights and weekends, and looking forward to the day that we can be like Courtney and Bill and work side by side 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I'm just going to turn this around and I'm going to show you some of these cases. Let's see if I can do this. Maybe. Come on. Turn it around. What'd I do? Turn it around. There we go. So here's some of the artifacts that they have here. Pretty cool stuff. Now, are you guys open to the public, or do people need to plan a time to come visit?
It's actually normally private because for security reasons,
right?
Because we actually have other people's artifacts here as well.
Right.
So So sometimes, occasionally, you know, we'll invite people over and set up appointments, but yeah.
We don't have traditional street traffic, but just yesterday, based on the article in the Gazette, we were on for the business section of the Gazette. We had a 95-year-old Marine from World War II contact us and is very interested in seeing the display. I mean, how do you
say
turn
no?
that down,
You
right?
can't say no to that, right?
In fact, I'm going to buy him lunch. You know, I mean, because
Yeah.
you know, anytime you get to commune with a World War II veteran, you know, you need to take that opportunity. So,
and I would say that if people have an interest in these artifacts and types of artifacts, I would encourage them to check out our eBay page. We do have auctions because we are actually, we do sell artifacts on behalf of others and particularly institutions. And so we have some really interesting items that actually appear. So that's heritage_arsenal on eBay. And then we also have a YouTube channel. It's Heritage Arsenal channel. So where Bill basically breaks down a little bit more in detail some of the stories surrounding those artifacts.
Oh, cool. And of course, your website is heritagearsenal.com, right?
And we're also on Facebook.
Okay. And if they want to contact the two of you other than through the website, is there a phone number they can call to get more information?
Sure. It's 913-702-6339.
So thank you so much, Bill and Courtney, for sharing all these artifacts. It's a really, really cool place. So call them and set up a time to come see these artifacts. It's a pretty awesome, especially if you've got a military background. It's cool to see all these old uniforms to see it through the errors, you know.
And actually, we'll be at the Living History Day for the 4th Infantry Division Museum, which is coming up.
The 18th of May, so that's 9 to 2 out at Fort Carson. We'll have a small booth there, and then we actually push over to Normandy for the 75th anniversary.
Oh, cool.
We'll be in France for about 2 weeks.
And he's actually jumping
wow.
out of a plane.
Well,
wow.
So they have 30 vintage restored C-47 Skytrains, and there's 250 of us from around the world who are dressed in World War II period uniforms, and we're actually jumping into the drop zones of the 101st Airborne in Carentan, France on the 5th of June to commemorate that jump and to honor the 13,000 Allied paratroopers who initiated the invasion of Normandy and the liberation of occupied France. So it's a rare opportunity. It's going to be exciting, and we're really looking forward to it.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, the two of you, for sharing your business and your background and the artifacts that are here. And again, reach out to them if you've got any questions. And I look forward to seeing all of you next Monday on Military Mondays. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.